Reactive Abuse, the Dysfunctional Family. Welcome back. I'm Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and this is the Family Roles series. Today's topic is one that every survivor of narcissistic abuse needs to understand, because it's one of the most weaponized dynamics used against us: reactive abuse. Reactive abuse is what happens when you're pushed, provoked, humiliated, baited, and then blamed for how you respond. It's when the abuser gets a rise out of you and then points at your reaction to prove their narrative. See, you're crazy, you're abusive, you're the problem. But what they don't say is what came before that reaction. The cruelty, the gaslighting, the undermining, the manipulation designed specifically to break your composure. It's not just unfair, it's calculated. Reactive abuse is a setup. You are not losing it. You're being emotionally ambushed and then discredited for showing normal human pain. Your anger, your tears, your raised voice in that moment, it's not abuse. It's the body's last defense against ongoing psychological assault. It's your nervous system responding to a threat it can no longer quietly endure. This reaction is not a character flaw. It's a survival mechanism. This tactic is especially common in families. Why? Because families give abusers proximity. They know your wounds. They know your triggers. They know what matters to you. So when you start resisting their control, when you ask for accountability, for boundaries, for clarity, that's when they start engineering your reaction. They poke until you snap. They push you into corners with smugness, with smirks, with passive-aggressive jabs that no one else notices. And then, right when your voice rises or your tears break, they lean back and say, "See? This is why no one can talk to you." It's a psychological trap. And it works because once you've reacted, you look like the problem, not the person who created the conditions for that reaction. This is how the narcissist maintains their false image. It's not just that they want to win, it's that they want to win while looking innocent. Let's be clear. Someone who was truly concerned about your mental health wouldn't provoke you and then gossip about your breakdown. They wouldn't record you mid-meltdown or text the family group chat about how concerned they are while you're still shaking. They wouldn't escalate a private moment into a public smear. They'd comfort you. They'd ask what's wrong. They'd help you come back to calm. But abusers aren't interested in comfort, they're interested in control. And if they can't control you directly, they'll control how others see you. That's what reactive abuse is really about. Creating a scene they can narrate. They don't want resolution. They want footage. They want ammunition. They want to provoke you just enough to get the performance they need, to justify what they already believe or want others to believe. You'll hear them say, "She's unstable. He's got anger issues. They're impossible to deal with." These aren't just statements. They're preloaded scripts. And every time you respond to the abuse, they get to click play. So how do you know if you're experiencing reactive abuse? One sign is chronic self-doubt. You find yourself rereading texts to make sure you weren't too harsh. You rehearse phone calls before making them. You explain your emotions like they're legal arguments. You apologize before you've even finished expressing how you feel. And meanwhile, the abuser stays calm, measured, detached. Because that's their game. They want you to look like the emotional one. Another sign is that your reactions are always the headline, not the mistreatment that came first. They won't talk about the 4 days of silent treatment, the lies, the triangulation, the guilt trips. They'll just replay the moment you snapped. They'll reduce your entire character to your worst 5 minutes they spent hours crafting. If you find yourself constantly explaining your reactions more than their provocations, you're likely in a reactive abuse dynamic. If you feel like you're losing it and they look like they're thriving, it's not because you're unstable. It's because you're being emotionally starved and then blamed for feeling hungry. This is why it's so insidious. Because it isolates you. You feel ashamed. You question your memory. You wonder if you are too much. And the more you doubt yourself, the easier it is for them to claim the moral high ground. But here's the truth. Your reaction is not the problem. The abuse is. Anger is not abuse. Raising your voice in pain is not abuse. Crying, storming out, yelling, "Leave me alone," after hours or years of mistreatment is not abuse. These are emotional responses to sustained harm. And while yes, we are responsible for our behavior, we are not responsible for the bait. Abusers love to weaponize your trauma response. They love when you disassociate mid-argument because it makes you look cold. They love when you yell because it makes you look aggressive. They love when you shut down because they can call you withholding. They've read the manual of your nervous system, and they press every button they can. Here's what they don't expect: that you'll stop performing. That you'll walk away, not because you can't take it, but because you've finally seen through it. Reactive abuse loses its power when you stop justifying your emotions to people committed to misunderstanding you. When you stop trying to be calm for someone who is poking you on purpose. When you stop treating your trauma response like a character defect. You're not crazy. You're not unstable. You're not broken. You're finally responding to something that's been breaking you for a long time. So what do? You name it. You name the setup. You document the pattern. You keep a private log of what led up to the incident. You protect your receipts. You trust your memory. You don't explain it to people who refuse to witness it. You find one person who believes you. You anchor there. And most importantly, you forgive yourself for the times you reacted. Because you were human. Because you were hurting. Because you were being cornered in a place that should have been safe. And because your nervous system chose survival. They'll say you were the problem. That you were too emotional. That you were acting out. But what you were doing was waking up. You were responding to injustice. You were feeling the betrayal. You were no longer numbing it away. That's not failure. That's awakening. And here's what comes next. You learn how to respond without being trapped. You learn how to recognize the bait. You stop explaining your integrity to people who are performing innocence while doing harm. You start responding with boundaries instead of explanations, with distance instead of debate, with silence instead of defense. Because the truth is, you never owed them your composure. You owed yourself your peace. And now, it's time to reclaim it. Hi, I'm Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and what you just watched is part of my signature program, the Chosen One series inside School of Soul. This series is not just a course, it's a blueprint for those who know they were different from the start. The black sheep, the scapegoat, the truth teller, the cycle breaker. Inside, you'll discover the family roles playbook, the golden child, the scapegoat, the enabler, the lost child, and how to finally step out of the part you were cast in without consent. How the black sheep becomes the goat, turning rejection into radical transformation and leadership. How to break generational curses and rewrite ancestral contracts so the pain stops with you. And how to recognize and escape modern forms of spiritual and technological targeting, from gang stalking to synthetic synchronicity. This isn't just about survival. It's about awakening, about reclaiming your voice, your lineage, and your destiny as one of the chosen ones. Click the link below to access the full series now, because the role ends the moment you decide it does, and the real script begins with you.